Good evening and welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 128. I'm Ron.
I'm Shane.
And we are here to talk about slot cars. So again, welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 128. You can find us on YouTube, Slot Racers the channel, 128 episodes, some special episodes and some how-to videos. On Facebook, the page is Between the Lanes. Race results, the winning report. East Coast Flexi Series was at Speed Zone, New Jersey, and Mount Holly, New Jersey, last weekend. In the stock car class, Dale Granger was first, Matt Bruce was second, and John Streisguth was third. They were all on the same lap at the end of the race. And in that picture, that is the winning difference, about one car length between winner Dale and second place Matt. And then in the LMP class, Matt Bruce was the winner, Dale Granger second, and Bill Gearhart was third. ORS was at Mark's Model World, Canton, Ohio. In the Retro Angle Winder class, Greg Mayer there on the left was the winner. Rick Starkey was second, Ralph Middahl third. Jason Eichelbarger fourth, and Doc Doherty was fifth. In the Can-Am class, Greg Fox was the winner. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Okay, there's just a lot of...
Oh, it might be the microphone.
Okay.
I got earbuds in, rub it up against my shirt.
That's
no
what,
different than shuffling papers.
That's okay. That's what it is. Greg Fox was the winner. We're even. Greg Fox was second in Can-Am. Was the winner. Dave Smirka second, Rick Starkey third, Dan Ebert fourth, and Dan Krivicek in fifth. And then F1, Greg Mayer was the winner, Greg Fox second, Jason Dennis was third, Rick Starkey fourth, and Jason Eichelbarger was fifth. Checkpoint Cup race, Buena Park Raceway, the annual big retro race out there. Whoop. Gotta go back now. Oh, this is all messed up. All right, so in the Retro Coupe class, I only have a photo of that podium. Rick Dodge was the winner, Herman James second, Dale Yamashita was third. And then this thing has got a mind of its own tonight, sorry. In the flat track F1 race, Gary Donahoe was the winner, Brian Wormack second, Mil Conroy third. In the Can-Am King Track race, Duran Trujillo was your winner. He kind of smoked the field by 15 laps. Mil Conroy was second. Alex was in third. And then in the F1 race on the King Track, Duran wins again. Mil Conroy second again, and Sam Rackham was third. And Duran won that one by 9 laps. So Duran was rolling.
Right in the game.
Yep. The Rocky Mountain Retro Racing Association was in action last weekend out in Colorado. Can-Am winner A.J. Hoyt, George V. in second, and Justin in third. In the F1 class, Paul M. was your winner. Mulder was second, and Justin, well, that's not right because A.J. Hoyt's up there. It was kind of a weird race report on Facebook because I couldn't, some of the names didn't, like the Can-Am report was listed as stock cars, so they were all holding Can-Am cars, so I'm assuming. So on the Facebook page, it said Paul was the winner, Mulder was second, Justin was third, but in this picture, which I'm going to go as the official finish because it's top 3 guys, Paul was the winner, A.J. Hoyt was second, and Justin was third. And then in stock car, because see, they're all holding their stock cars, Justin was the winner, George V. second, and Paul M. was third. Okay, the Canadian International Warm-Up Race was last weekend, and the Canadian Nats are coming up in March. So they had a warm-up race this weekend. So GT1 class, Roger Nisnik was the winner. John Waller was second, and Dave was third. And then in GTP, John Waller was the winner. Dave was second, and Nate was third. But see, again, they're race because this is, the picture is John, Dave, and then Dave DeCoster. So Dave DeCoster was third. I was looking at the, because they didn't really type in the finished. I was just looking at the computer, and they had Nate as third, but maybe they were tied and not flipped. I don't know. So, and then the Nats warm-up race was at Fast Tracks in Rockland, California last weekend. In GTP, Justin Colvin was your winner. Little brother Tyler Colvin was second. Chris Cross was third. They had 13 entries. And then in GT12 banked track, Tyler Colvin was the winner. Chris Cross was second. Jason Hooper was third. 9 entries. And then the production race, Justin Colvin was your winner. Tyler Colvin second. Jason Hooper third. 10 entries. And then the last race was GT12 on the flat track, 6 entries. Justin Colvin wins again. Chris Croft second. Jason Hooper was third. And then no pictures on New England Retro Racing was at Modelville, Ashland, Massachusetts. And Coops on the Royal, Gary Clinton Jr. was your winner. Vinny Cafazzo second. Keith Libby third. F1 on the King, Gary Clinton Jr. pulls off the sweep with the second win of the day. Dom Luongo second, and John Weaver was third. That was the first race we've seen John Weaver in quite some time, so it was good to see John there on the podium on his return race. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Right on cue. Okay, so... Oh, hang on a second. I got the wrong month. Here we go. So February 1st, we have Midwest Spec in action this weekend. We have BRS at HMS for the Retro All-Stars. And the Ohio Oval Series is also at HMS on Sunday. The weekend of the 8th, we've got Central Illinois Slot Series at Whiskers. Mid-America Hard Body Enduro at Naperville, Mid-America. The Daytona 500 is at Fast Alley on Sunday. The weekend of the 15th, which is Valentine's weekend. Don't forget Valentine's weekend, racers. USCA is at Thaser Raceway, and at Mark's Model World, Canton, Ohio, is the Cindy McMaster's Benefit Race. There are raffle tickets being sold through Bill Fulmer. A lot of donated prizes and stuff for the raffle along with the race. So find William Fulmer on Facebook to find out more information on that. The weekend of the 22nd, we've got the Flexi Fest West Fast Tracks in Rockland, California. It was announced earlier today that that will now be a one-day race. And GTP will race first, followed by LMP. So that might make it easier for some racers to go and race one day versus being there 2 days.
Right.
Hard bodies are at Thaser. Ohio Challenge Cup is at Mark's Model World, Canton, Ohio. And the weekend of the 29th, Penn, Ohio Retro is at Mark's Model World, Canton, Ohio. And the East Coast Flexi Series is at Fast Tracks, Valley, Pennsylvania. So there's your some of your upcoming races, because I know there's other races that I haven't got on the calendar yet, and we'll get them on there. So there you have it. What else is in the news, Shane?
The news.
In the
Facebook
news.
We've seen some guide flag talking. We've been talking about drag racing. I see they got a new drag racing guide flag out, or an extension or something like that. Did you see that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I would call them extended blade guides is what I would call them. So
Okay.
a normal guide flag length on most guide flags is around 1 inch. And these new guides, I didn't see a measurement, but I'm going to guess there's probably 2 inches long, maybe 2.5, and maybe 3 inches long. They are 3D printed. You may ask, why would you run an extended guide flag blade? It's all to do with rollout. A lot of the drag racing, can't call it a lap counter, but a timing system. The blade of the guide is what breaks the beam. And if you have a longer guide, you can take off earlier than the guy with a shorter guide flag because he can't move very far and he would red light if he left too early, where the guy with the longer guide flag can leave earlier, and if he's got everything timed right, he won't break out, but he could be a full car length ahead of the other car before it even leaves the line. So there are some drag racing rules that say they can only be 1 inch long, and then there's some raceways that have now said that these new guides won't be legal. And in heads-up racing, it would be a big advantage to have one over a guy who didn't have one. Bracket racing, I don't see an advantage because if you leave late or leave early, you still have to run the number in bracket racing or index racing. You got to run your dial-in number. So, if you're bracket racing and you left 2 lights ahead of me and didn't red light, you still have to run your number, and I still have to run my number. You know what I mean? So, maybe maybe it makes a difference at the end, at the finish, but bracket racing is all about running your number, not breaking out. So, and there could be an advantage of being able to leave earlier and adjust your dial-in time. So yeah, there's possibly an advantage of bracket racing. But I think the point here is, to me, if I have a car with an extended guide and Shane doesn't, I have an advantage. But if I have a car with an extended guide and Shane has a car with an extended guide, they're both the same length, neither one of us have an advantage. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many times in slot car racing, there's been rules created or things have been allowed because those in charge of writing the rules says, well, this gives me an advantage. Well, yeah, it only gives you an advantage if no one else has it. But once everyone has it, there's no longer an advantage, but we all spent all this money for really no reason. I mean, it goes back to when, like ISRA USA, in the production class, a racer went to a race and he ran a 2mm axle on his car. And he had a huge advantage over everybody. So then it was like, well, we're going to legalize 2mm axles. Okay, well, now everybody's got to spend more money. No one gained an advantage in the long run, but they all spent more money because they had to buy axles and bearings and gears and tires. And it kind of killed the production class because all these guys had to spend extra money for no reason. So, sometimes things come out that we really don't need that just, it gives you an advantage. But once everyone buys it, no one has the advantage. So we all spent money on stuff. And it's the same thing with like a new chassis. Yeah, I mean, if a manufacturer comes out with a new chassis that's faster, lighter, better, the guys that get them first have the advantage over the other guys that don't have them. But once everybody gets them, you're back to square, and we all spent money to buy new chassis. I'm not saying we shouldn't come out with new products or anything like that. I'm just pointing out the simple facts of life. So
I like new toys. I like new stuff.
Right. But I mean, if there's something that gives one person or just a group of people an advantage in a restricted class over everybody else, it should probably be outlawed because it's going to start costing you racers. Because if guys can't get it to be competitive, they're not going to race. Now, if you're racing AA funny cars or Pro Group 7 cars or Eurosport cars, if you come up with an advantage, that's what that racing's about. It's about coming up with advantages and making your stuff faster. It's a wide open class. So, but in restricted classes, it can be a very, very bad thing. So your mileage may vary, but that's my take and opinion on it. So there you have it.
Yeah.
There you have it.
So that was the guide one that I've seen, and then the other one, speaking of advantage, and then this and that, I've seen another one. They were talking about magnets.
Magnets, yeah. So this is kind of going to be a little history segment of the show tonight. So, there was a photo posted last night on Facebook of two 16D setups, and the question was, like, are these Speed FX magnets, they have longer tips than these other Speed FX magnets? And I seen the picture, and I'm like, the one on the right, Speed FX magnets, and the one on the left is the old DM2 Fast Ones magnets that were also Trinity magnets, but they were DM2 magnets. So are the tips longer? I can't. If they are, they're like maybe 10 thousandths longer. It's not a huge thing. But back in the day, okay, so Parma had a factory in Hong Kong that made their motors, and back then we had 16D motors and we had Super 16D motors, and the 16D magnets were those old red and white, thick, weak magnets, where the Super 16Ds had the thinner, stronger magnets in them. And, we weren't allowed to interchange magnets and stuff like that. So all was fine and well. And then Slotworks Trinity went to that same factory and had motors made. And those are the original square hole Trinity motors, which at the time Parma had just the little kind of oval hole.
Right.
And Trinity followed suit. 16D motors had the red, white, thick, weak magnets, and the Super 16Ds had the same thinner, thick magnets. So Trinity Slotworks motors and Parma motors were made in the same factory from probably 1992. I'm thinking up until about 1998 or so. So they shared common magnets and common armatures. There was no difference between the armatures and the magnets. The only difference was the hole pattern in the cans and the design of the end bells and hardware. Now, Trinity did make what they called an Outlaw 16D and an Outlaw Super 16D, which was different wire size and number of turns on shorter length blanks than the normal 16D and Super 16D. Okay, so in 1998, that factory that made both companies' motors closed, went out of business. Parma moved on to a new company somewhere else. And it took Trinity a year or so to find a motor company to continue to make their motors. So after 1998, Parma motors were made in one factory. Trinity Slotworks motors were made in a different factory. So the Parma motor still used same armature, same magnets. Everything was still the same, even from the new factory. Trinity found a new factory, moved the tooling there. They produced samples, and it was a different armature blank. And it was a horrible armature blank, but it was a different armature blank, and they were different magnets. Because when I got the sample motors to test, when I pulled them apart, I noticed that these magnets look different. And what it was, if you look on the end of a Parma, or nowadays Pro Slot magnet, Speed FX magnets, if you look on the ends of them where they're painted or not painted, you will see a chamfer on the back side of the magnet, like through the back arc of the magnet. There's like a chamfer from the flat side to the back flat side of the arc. The DM2s did not have a chamfer. So it was like when I first looked at them, I'm like, these magnets are different. I didn't notice a difference in the tips way back when. So the next thing was put them on the Gauss meter. Well, the DM2 magnets were like 100 to 200 points higher reading than the Parma magnets. Okay, so it's like, wow, these magnets are way better. And I started selling them as DM2 magnets. And I mean, we sold tens of thousands of those magnets in probably a 2 to 3 year period. I mean, they were the magnets to run. And, you know, I know that a lot of guys bought them, put them in Parma motors, and where you could still build motors, because at that time, most of the 16D racing was sealed motors, so there wasn't a lot of magnet interchanging going on. But where you could work on motors, guys were putting DM2 magnets in their Parma motors and making those run better. So, and they were a big hit in drag racing, the DM2 magnets. So, I don't remember what year it was for sure, but I'm thinking 2003, 2004. The company that was making the Trinity motors at that time sold out to a bigger motor company, and then we couldn't get motors or magnets anymore. Like, to be honest, we weren't even told, or nor did we know what company bought the company.
Correct.
So at that point, Trinity was like out of the motor business, and I was kind of out of the DM2 magnet business because I couldn't get magnets. And the motor company that supplied the DM2 magnets, they would never tell us the magnet company was, because we could have went to the magnet company and got them if we knew, but they didn't. But they never told us. So the DM2 magnets basically haven't been available for 15 years, roughly. 15, you know, I guess 15 to 17 years.
Right.
But so now the question is, in drag racing, being they've figured this out, and I had a few drag guys call me and want to know the history. Yeah, that I never felt, you know, it wasn't too longer after the magnets I noticed the tips were a little bit longer, but like I said, it was only like 10 thousandths, not enough to make a difference. But the advantage of the DM2 magnet over the Parma Speed FX magnets wasn't the tips, it was the Gauss. The difference in Gauss was the advantage. So, you know, now here you've got a deal where a certain part will give an advantage, but you can't get them unless you're lucky enough to find some.
Right.
And where do you go find them? Well, I can tell you no distributors have them. They haven't had them for a zillion years. If you walked into some raceway that's maybe been open for 25 years and they haven't raced 16D motors in 17 years, you might find a pair or two laying there. But other than that, your only guess would be to buy Trinity twister can motors, because that was the only motor that was produced with those magnets. I mean, you could probably find some on eBay from time to time,
right,
and then take them apart, and you would probably have DM2 magnets. But then again, the twister motor was also made at the same factory the Parma motor was made prior to them closing. So those old twister, the original twister motors, had the same magnet as the Parma magnet. So it's a real crapshoot on buying stuff on eBay, tearing apart. Whether it's a 50-50 deal. Either you're going to have them or you're not.
Kind of gambling.
Right. So, and I don't do much eBay, and so I don't know if any of that stuff ever comes up on there very often for sale. But yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do in drag racing. It's a hard thing to police, because I mean, bracket racing, it don't matter. But if they're running a class race, or, you know, a class where they have to run Speed FX parts only, then the only way you can police it is you have to tear the motors down after the race or whatever, because you can't visibly look when a motor's assembled and tell whether it's DM2 magnets for sure. Now, you could probably look at the end of the motor by the oil light and the pinion, but if they got a lot of glue or epoxy in there, and you wouldn't know if there's a chamfer there or not.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, again, so here's the opposite side. Now we got a part that isn't widely available, or isn't even available commercially, that does give an advantage. So, I mean, there's a lot of times the worst DM2 magnets in a batch is the same as the best Parma or Speed FX magnet. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was how much difference there was in Gauss. So, I mean, they were fairly consistent, but you still get some variation through 5,000 pairs, you know?
Right.
So we zapped them all, and then we would gauss them. You know, we put them in a can, slide them in a can, zap them, gauss them, and then, you know, match them by strength and package them and ship them. And we didn't mark them as to what was, you know, if one, you know, we didn't mark them like these are 1,000 and these are 900. We just packaged them. They were matched, and that's what the deal was. So, because if you would have wrote numbers on them, then everybody would have said, well, we want ones that meter 1,000 or higher.
Yeah.
And then you've got 990s you can't sell, and 980s and 800s or 850, and, you know, so
yeah,
like anything, if you want to find the highest or the lowest, you gotta buy multiples and sit down and either meter or read them and see what you got. So
gotcha.
there you go. There's a little history and on the magnet deal, and I'm sure someone will probably ask a question, and I'll have to maybe have an update in a future show. So
right,
we'll see what happens. So
I just looked on eBay. I didn't see anything.
nope.
No, I was just like, oh, I wonder. And I looked, and I was like, no.
Now, maybe after the show, guys will start digging out their old motors and start putting them on eBay. Here's the motors with DM2 magnets.
Yeah.
And here's DM2 magnets, $50 a pair.
I'm sure back in the day, I probably had some because I ran a lot of the Trinity and slot work, and then I would buy your fast one setup that were Trinity.
Right.
So.
Yep. Like I said, we sold tens of thousands of pairs of those. Yep. I mean, if I would have known the magnet company that made those, I would probably, it's safe to say, I'd probably still be selling those magnets today.
Gotcha.
The reason they went away was because we lost the source, but we never knew the source. So there you have it. So that's all I got for this week. You got anything else?
No, I'm still kind of laying low from racing and just kind of enjoying the downtime, really. Yep.
Well, I'm going to go retro racing this weekend and maybe do some oval racing. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, what do I got? I got 2 more days in January.
Yep.
February, be counting down until I go up to March for the OCC race.
Yep. All right. Well.
Yeah, I'm going for the food, and there just happens to be a race, so.
There you go.
Figure I might as well enter the race.
Yep. All right. Well, until next week, have a good weekend. If you're going racing, good luck. Be safe. And next week will be episode 129. And I'm out.
See you later.
All right. Thanks, Shane.